Some people carry the weight of the world and still smile, still show up like nothing's wrong. They make pain look graceful, struggle look effortless. But just because they make it look easy doesn't mean it is. Some of the strongest people you know are carrying invisible burdens. They're the ones who never complain, who always say, "I'm fine," even when they're breaking, because somewhere along the way, they were taught to hide it, to mask pain with composure, to never let it show. To be strong meant to be silent, to be reliable no matter what. But let's be honest, life is not always easy, and it's not supposed to be. Some days are heavy, some battles are quiet, and some wounds can't be seen. You don't owe the world a performance. You don't have to smile through everything. You don't have to pretend it doesn't hurt, because pretending is exhausting. Numbing is a form of survival, but not a path to peace. There is strength in being real, in saying this is hard, in letting yourself be human. You don't have to make it look easy. To deserve love, or respect, or rest, you don't have to be the strong one all the time. You don't have to carry it alone. And you don't have to hide the weight. Vulnerability is not weakness. It's truth. It's connection. When we drop the mask, we find people who see us, not for how well we perform, but for how honestly we live. So if you're tired of making it look easy, you're allowed to stop. Let people in. Let yourself breathe. Let it be hard. Somewhere along the line, we started confusing silence with strength. We believed that hiding our pain made us admirable. If we don't talk about it, we're handling it well. But silence doesn't mean healing. It often just means isolation. And strength isn't about holding everything in. It's about knowing when to let go. When to say, "I'm not okay," and when to ask for help. Some people never show cracks. Not because they're unbreakable, but because they've been punished for breaking. Maybe they cried once and were called dramatic. Maybe they opened up and were ignored. Or maybe they tried to be vulnerable and were told to toughen up. So they learned to hide, to push it down, to keep smiling even when it hurt. But that isn't healing. It's just coping. And coping isn't the same as living. The truth is, you don't need to pretend. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to make it look easy. You're allowed to fall apart, to take a breath, to not have the answers. You're allowed to say, "This is heavy. I need a break. I'm tired of holding it all together." That doesn't make you weak. It makes you real. And real people connect more deeply than perfect ones ever will. Stop aiming to be admired for your silence. Aim to be understood in your truth. That's where healing begins. Because behind every person who makes it look easy, there's a story you don't know, a battle you don't see, and you might be that person. The one who holds it all in, the one who others rely on. But even especially you deserve support. You deserve rest. You deserve to be seen without the mask. Not just for what you do, but for what you carry and who you are beneath it all. It's okay to be the one who struggles. It's okay to admit that it's hard. You don't have to be a superhero. There's a strange kind of pressure that comes with competence. The better you are at surviving, the less people think you're struggling at all. You get praised for how well you're handling things. But no one stops to ask if you want to be handling them alone, or if you're close to breaking underneath the calm. Because when you make it look easy, the world assumes you're fine. And when the world assumes you're fine, it stops checking in, it stops offering support. It forgets you're human. It applauds your composure and ignores your exhaustion. And eventually, you start to believe you don't deserve help, because you've already proven you can do it all, and asking now feels like weakness. But here's what they don't tell you. Even strong people need softness. Even resilient people deserve relief. You can be capable and still feel overwhelmed. You can be dependable and still want someone to lean on. You can be brave and still cry at night. So making it look easy doesn't mean you owe it to anyone to keep pretending. It doesn't mean you can't stop and say, "I'm struggling more than you know." There's no badge for doing life on hard mode. No trophy for never asking for help. No honor in carrying silent pain. True strength isn't about being invincible. It's about being honest. It's about admitting when you're at your limit. When you do, you give others permission to be real too. You remind them that pain doesn't make us unworthy, just human. People may have expected you to hold everything together, But you're not obligated to live up to an illusion. You don't have to be the strong one all the time. You don't have to be calm while your world is burning. You don't have to smile when you're barely holding on. You don't have to make it look easy when it's not. Because no one can thrive in a role that erases their needs. No one grows by pretending everything is fine. And no one heals in silence. So breathe. Let the tears come if they need to. Let your guard down a little. The people who truly love you won't run away from your truth. They won't think less of you for showing pain. They'll sit with you in it. Because being seen is more powerful than being admired. Being understood is more freeing than being praised. And being loved when you're not okay is the most human thing of all. Think about the times you've felt the most alone. Not because there was no one around, but because no one could see what you were carrying. You were still smiling, still showing up, still doing everything expected of you. And yet inside you were tired, so deeply tired, of being the one who never breaks, of being the one who never needs, of being the one who always says, "I've got it." This is the danger of being the strong one. People start thinking you don't need checking on, that you're immune to the chaos life throws, but you're not. You feel it all sometimes more than others, you just don't show it. And that invisibility starts to hurt, because you want to be seen too. You want someone to ask, "How are you really?" You want someone to notice the cracks in your voice, the way your eyes avoid theirs, the way your silence says more than your words ever could. But the more you make it look easy, the more invisible your pain becomes, till you're applauded for how well you're coping, when really you're just surviving. And maybe no one sees it, but you feel it. That ache of being everything for everyone, and nothing for yourself. That numbness after long days of pretending. That loneliness in rooms full of people who think you're okay. A quiet resentment building every time you say yes. When you meant please help, you're allowed to stop. You're allowed to put it all down. You're allowed to say this is hard for me. Because your worth is not measured by how little support you need, or how seamlessly you hide your struggle, or how polished your breakdown looks. Rest is not a luxury for the weak. Vulnerability is not a flaw, and letting others help you is not a failure. You're not a burden for needing care. You're not broken for feeling overwhelmed. You're not wrong for being tired. You're just human. And no human was made to endure everything alone. Not even the ones who make it look easy. There's a kind of grief that comes not from loss itself, but from always having to hide how much things cost you. You start measuring your value in how well you can pretend, and how convincingly you can smile through the exhaustion. And it works, till it doesn't. Until one day the mask starts to slip. Someone says, "You look tired." And you want to say, "I've been tired for years." But instead, you laugh, say something light, and keep going. Because it's hard to explain the weight of everything you carry. It's hard to describe the fatigue of always holding it together. Hard to admit that you don't always want to be strong. Sometimes you just want to fall apart, without feeling guilty, without feeling like you've let anyone down. Because strength isn't always stoic. Sometimes strength looks like tears, like asking for help, like finally saying, "I can't do this alone." And yet we live in a world that rewards composure, that praises the ones who handle everything so well, that forgets to ask if you should be handling it all. Maybe you grew up in a home where no one had time to fall apart, where silence was safety, where your needs were less important than keeping peace. And now, as an adult, you keep reenacting that script, hiding your needs, minimizing your pain. But you don't have to keep doing that. You don't have to play strong just to be loved. You don't have to suffer quietly to be enough. Let people see you not just the polished version, not just the curated calm, but the messy, real, honest you. Because real connection doesn't come from perfection. It comes from vulnerability. From letting someone hold you when you're not okay. You're allowed to need that. You're allowed to crave softness. You're allowed to say this is too much, not because you're weak, but because you're real. And real people get tired, even when they make it look easy. You've spent so long being the dependable one, the calm in the storm. The one who fixes, absorbs, holds everything together. People admire you for it. They say, "You're so strong." But they never ask what it's costing you. So when you make it look easy, people stop checking if you're okay. They assume you're fine because you always seem fine. But performing strength is exhausting. Smiling when your heart is breaking. Showing up when you're falling apart inside. It creates a lonely kind of pressure. Because you've built a reputation on composure, and now you're afraid to be anything less. But here's something you need to hear. You are not responsible for making everyone else comfortable. You are not obligated to hide your humanity. You can let the cracks show. You can be both strong and struggling. You can say, I need a break, and still be enough. It doesn't make you dramatic. It makes you honest, and honesty is what sets you free. Free from the expectation that you always have it together. Free from the idea that love must be earned through endurance. Free from the fear of being seen for who you really are. Because behind that calm exterior lives a soul that's been stretched thin. A person who's tired of pretending it doesn't hurt. So, take off the armor, even just for a moment. Lay down the weight. Let someone see the truth behind your strength. You don't have to apologize for your softness. You don't have to downplay your struggle. You don't have to say, I'm fine, when you're not. The people who love you, the real you, they don't need you to be perfect. They just want you to be true. True to how hard it's been, true to how heavy it feels, it's true to your need for care. You've carried enough, long enough. You don't have to carry it in silence anymore. You don't have to make it look easy. You're allowed to ask for ease. You're allowed to say this is hard. You're allowed to be held. There's a quiet kind of courage in saying, I can't do this alone. In whispering, I'm not okay. That kind of honesty is rare, and it's powerful because it invites others to be honest too. When you stop pretending to be okay, you make space for connection. Real connection, built on perfection, but on shared truth. You've been the rock, the helper, the one who holds everyone else up. But even the strongest needs someone to lean on. Even the sun needs rest behind the clouds. Even the ocean retreats from the shore. Even you are allowed to pause. You don't have to keep performing ease. You don't have to smile through every storm. You don't have to make resilience look effortless. Let your heart be known. Let your pain speak. Let your softness exist without shame. Because strength doesn't always look like standing tall. Sometimes it looks like falling apart, choosing to rise again anyway. It looks like crying in the arms of someone safe, like saying no when your soul is tired, like being brave enough to rest. You were never meant to carry everything in silence. You were never meant to earn love by suffering. You were always worthy, messy, real, human. So if you're tired of pretending, let this be the moment you let go. Let this be your permission. Permission to be seen, to be soft, to be held, to be loved as you are. You don't have to make it look easy. It was never supposed to be. You just have to be real. And in your realness, you will find peace. And in your peace, you will find home. This is quiet philosophy, where thinking isn't loud, and life doesn't need to be either. Subscribe if you haven't already, not for noise, but for something you can actually feel.